r/askreddit. What would people take more seriously if it had a different name? Radiation burns, not sunburns. Star damage. We should really adopt that here in Norway. We are in the top spot in the world when it comes to skin cancer. Our country is covered in darkness most of the year, so when we come around to summer and get 17-24 hours of daylight every day and about 2 months with temperatures around 13-23 degrees C, we go nuts and spend as much time as we can outside. This redditor is delusional. Take them to the infirmary. Fanny packs. It could have been like utility pouch or hell. Even shitkeeper would be better than fanny pack. Edit. Holy hell y'all, I think I'm actually gonna rock one. I read a lot of your guys' responses and here's some solid names. Nutruck, Chaos Poucher, Koala the Ho-To-Go, and my personal favorite, the douchebag. I'm contemplating getting one and sewing it's a douchebag onto it. Thanks y'all. We call them bum bags in the UK. But that's also because fanny has a very different meaning here. Walkie talkies. Speechy reachis. Rooty tooty aim and shooty. Zoomy boomies. Dead living. Sounds not too bad, but should be called skinned alive. Dead living is what I do after a sledding trip. And decoating. And debutting. And dehutting. One of my friends recently got degloved. He lost all the skin on his arm, all the way up to his shoulder. IDK, dead living has always sounded horrifying to me. Sounds, sounded. No, that name is perfect. It instantly fucks me up and fully illustrates the concept in excruciating mental detail. Waterboarding. Sounds like a fun activity for a day at the lake with family. Ah yes, drowning torture. I'm gonna go waterboarding in Guantanamo Bay. Broom rape. The crop failure that plant genus causes and how dangerous it is because of it is highly overshadowed by that ridiculous name. Edit. I've never seen a single episode of 13 Reasons Why and all the mentions of the show are both confusing and terrifying. Broom rape. Sounds fucking painful though. Don't forget rapeseed, aka canola. My man salmonella. Corporate welfare, not bailouts. Fun fact. The government has made money on the bailout of the banks and 08. Lost 11.2 billion on the GM bailout. Bailouts seem to be a universally bipartisan disliked thing, yet both parties do them. Pretty annoying. Cornhole. I have a hard time getting people to play. Call it a beanbag toss or bago. It sounds a lot less dirty. Marijuana strains, especially concerning medicine. People would take a name like Canoxaprum much more seriously than OG Unicorn Blood Kush. Edit. For those asking, sorry but not a real strain. Thought it would be a good name for a strand while watching Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. 100% this. As a prescribed medicinal user myself, it's weird that my medicine is called Super Lemon Haze. Are you telling me that Alaskan Thunderfuck wouldn't have been a better name than aspirin? Wouldn't you rather go take some green crack than Valium? Doesn't Granddaddy Perp sound more medicinal than warfarin? If you ask me, Big Pharma needs to catch up to the weed industry. Due to Poe's law, I feel obligated to mention that this comment was sarcastic. Borderline personality disorder sounds so mild. It isn't. Edit. Thanks for the gold, kind stranger. And, a different kind of thanks to all the replies describing BPD as terrifying, which isn't a fun way to think of oneself. Edit 2. I wasn't trying to say that terrifying is inaccurate. It absolutely is. It just isn't fun to think about the fact that I'm terrifying. Like you're right on the verge of having a personality. Yes. It sounds mild. As someone who has experienced it and someone once close to me, I can confirm it isn't. My sister couldn't handle this and ended her life. Still thinking of the pain she felt. Depression. The name currently conflates an emotion and a completely separate mental illness. That's why when discussing it I say clinical depression. And people who use OCD to say that they love to be clean organized. I can't stand it. If they truly ever experienced obsessive compulsive disorder, they would know it's not something to laugh about. OCD often comes with anxiety and depression, and it often relates to obsessive disturbing thoughts, not always a cleanliness obsession. MSG should be called savory salt. You could call it organic seaweed extract and it'd fly off the shelves at Whole Foods. Taserface. What made you look in the mirror and decide that Taserface was a cool name? Edit. Thank you kind stranger for the silver. My first award. Have you seen the theory that Taserface is actually a character from Thor 2 who was pushed into one of the prison cell walls, like Loki was in, and burning his face? Didn't some journalists go around asking people about the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare and got different responses from people like they were two different things? Journalist. So what do you think of the ACA? Person 1. Oh, it's great. I'm all for it. Journalist. And Obamacare? Person 1. Fuck it. Fug it to hell. Dental plaque. Y'all emphas are good with leaving that shit on and in between your teeth for hours, days, and weeks on end. Guess what? That stuff is bacteria that ate your food, and possibly teeth, and grew into a community of their own poop, dead and live bacteria, and leftover food. It's like wiping your ass after a good dump, but you're okay with leaving that shit clinging to your anus. Gross. So, I call it dental poo. That way my patients are more apt to brush and floss it off. TLDR, you eat little pieces of shits for breakfast? Edit, you're making me proud. BRB. I gotta go brush my teeth. I'm not kidding. Your teeth look okay in general, but make sure to get all of that dental poo off before you come to see me again. Bruh, I think you just improved my dental hygiene habits. Gerrymandering. If we called it what it is, state corruption. Or whistleblowing, if you call it like anti-corruption or something. The Patriot Act. I know. When I first heard the name it sounded like it was something great, then you read what it does and damn. ADHD, people treat it like it's just about not paying attention and being hyper. It can be crippling. I really want it to be called something like attention regulation disorder. Attention deficit is wildly inaccurate. Super fun when you have ADD without the hyperactive part, which gets adults annoyed. So if they don't get annoyed because you're not jumping around all the time, you apparently don't need medicine to sit the F where you belong and shut up because you're already doing that, so problem solved. It's not that I'm not paying attention. It's that I literally can't pay attention to shit that is necessary to concentrate on to be a normal functioning person with today's societal norms. I swear the first time I took Adderall it was like having a curtain open in front of me, being able to think like normal people. Rename evacuation zones to death zones. Hurricanes to kill storms. You know, I'd stay to prove how awesome I am, but I really don't want to be in the death zone of this kill storm. It's just a name. Like the Forbidden Zone. Or the Zone of No Return. All the zones have names like that in the galaxy of terror. If Facebook was called Creepy Uncle with a Peephole. Creepy Uncle with a Peephole. Doorbell camera. Creepy Uncle who you keep emailing all your personal photos to. Terms for concussions and their effects. When people talk about a boxer's chin getting worse, what they mean is that this person has incurred more brain damage, making it harder for him to take a punch. A boxer who is knocked out took a shot to the head that shut his brain down. He did not go to sleep. A person who's had their bell rung just got some brain damage, etc. Even silly movie stuff like a guy knocking out his friend to shut him up, and then the friend is okay a few scenes later. No, that person would likely be throwing up and stumbling around if that really happened. Even the term mild traumatic brain injury is slightly misleading. It's mild compared to moderate brain injury, which is only mild in relation to moderate brain injury, which I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. Source: I'm a hobbyist boxer currently recovering from a concussion, i.e. brain damage. Seriously, there was a period where I had 11 concussions in about 4 years. The doctor told me if I have another it'll be permanent damage and I'll never function right again. It's all permanent. I'm already not how I used to be. Concussions are serious. Bullying. Call it what it is, harassment and assault. No, you don't understand. It can't be assault or harassment if it's between kids. Asperger's. Edit. It has come to my attention that the term Asperger's is not used very much anymore and a good bit of doctors now call it ASD, autism spectrum disorder, but plenty of people joked about the name when it was more common and the media was reporting about it a lot. Edit number 2. Holy hell, this is blowing up fast, thanks kind strangers. That's why I usually just say I'm on the spectrum, which people then use to assume I'm LGBTQ. They don't use that in the UK anymore. Nor do they use high functioning autistic or low functioning autistic. Just straight autistic spectrum disorder. I don't like it because realistically high functioning and low functioning autistic have to be treated entirely differently, but I don't make the rules. Cartman, these are really good. Complex numbers. There's nothing about them that inherently makes them complex, but they were called that essentially because early mathematicians didn't like them. Some people have suggested lateral numbers because they are closely tied to the ideal of rotation and translation. I personally think something like complete numbers because they are algebraically complete would be cool. Imaginary numbers also seems a lot more whimsical before you actually get to it in math class. In physics you get some silly sounding names when you get on the really small scale. There's a property called spin but has nothing to do with actual spinning. Quarks have the names up, down, strange, charm, top, bottom, which sounds a bit silly when you say a proton is an up down. Edit. How could I forget the antiquarks? So you just stick anti in front of the quark name, but an anti-up isn't a down even though it sounds like it should be. I also love the names of ground-based telescopes. Very large telescope, extremely large telescope. They're complex because they have two parts. Complex doesn't always mean complicated. It can simply mean something that's made out of multiple parts. Like an apartment complex. Morning sickness. It's not just in the morning, it's not just a generic sickness or slight nausea. It's potential months of what feels like a constant flu. It's not the puking that gets you. It's the near constant nausea. I think I'd rather give birth again than experience 6+ months of morning sickness. Distracted driving. You're behind the wheel of 3,000 pounds machine and doing stuff like texting while driving isn't taken as seriously as it should be by many people. Texting kills more people than terrorism. But it can't be that bad because I do it and I am awesome. Anxiety attacks. People that have never experienced them don't know just how terrifying and debilitating they are. I had a panic attack exactly once. I no longer take people seriously when they claim they had a panic attack, and their anecdote continues with them being able to do anything. I lost probably an hour and a half of time and called into work. Edit. I'm not talking about people who had different panic attack experiences than I did. The people I doubt are people like Becky, the generic office drama peddler who totally had a literal panic attack when Trish from accounting said her shoes look tacky in front of Billiam from the mailroom, who everyone knows Becky saw first. She hates Trish. Like gore, she hates Trish. Get the fuck away from that thing that can kill you, instead of selfies with wild animals over dangerous cliffs. OMG, I read that with the tune from Monsters Incorporated. Put that thing back where it came from, or so help me. Get the fuck away from that thing that can kill you. Deep vein thrombosis can kill you but sounds like a porno term. Climate change to climate fucked. Fracking. Well, that's just short for hydraulic fracturing, which sounds pretty horrendous. Birth control. That is only one of the things it does. I would suggest calling it hormone balancer, but that sounds silly, and guys would use that as an insult for angry women. Having sex with an underage person to child rape. I'm looking at you, Jeff Epstein. Additionally, a man with a child written as rape, whereas a woman with a child is a relationship. Really, people? You change the name because of the gender of the adult? If we called vaccines something like essential oils fluids, then maybe the entrepreneur Facebook marketers would give them to their kids. Natural immunizers. Digimon because right now it's seen as a Pokemon clone. It's digital monsters, not pocket monsters. Urinal cakes. They should be called piss deodorant. Piscuits. School bullying. Bullying sounds like kids just being mean, but peer abuse sounds like a serious problem that warrants legal action. Oranges LMAO. Do you have any yellows? Noodling hogging aka hand-rubbing catfish. That shit is mad impressive, and I'm not even into outdoors shit, but the balls on those guys have to be huge to reach in holes for fucking fish. Spotted dicks. Post-traumatic stress disorder. It was more daunting when it was still called shell shock. That was a reference to a specific wartime trauma, though. Before, there used to be a stigma about it because anyone who hadn't been through being shelled in the war, or other wartime traumas, couldn't claim to have shell shock. Now we know that the causes of PTSD can be wide-ranging and far more common than it was previously believed. Celiac gluten insensitivity. It is real. All women on my maternal side died fairly young from cancers associated with the disease. They were always sick but never taken seriously. I wasn't diagnosed until my 40s. Even then the doctor told me it's a long shot cause no way I could have it that long without proper diagnosis. I will probably die younger than I should because while now considered real it's still treated like a fad. Global warming. Call it the planet's on fricking fire and we're all going to die. Moose? Call it what it is. Angry giant murder horse. Seriously, don't fuck with a moose. They will mess you right up just for existing.